Hello, everyone in the world. This is Shawn Harrell. You're listening to the Never Heard of It podcast. This is the podcast we talk about the movies that have slipped through our cracks, and in particular, of late, we've been talking about the 1985 movies that maybe didn't slip through our cracks entirely, but are prominently in our cracks and around our cracks. I have another crack with me today, of course, as always, so say hello, co-host.
Craig Cracker Moorhead.
Craig, how are you?
Shawn, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. This is going to drop right before Halloween, so I don't know. I'm feeling particularly excited about Halloween this year for some reason. We've carved a pumpkin. We've already done that.
Good.
We got our candy.
Yeah.
We got some decorations, and mostly I think I'm just looking forward to eating the candy, I think.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have costumes for the kids. There is a pumpkin somewhere.
Sweet.
So I feel like we're pretty ready.
And you have your hockey mask and machete?
As always, sharpened up, ready for the weekend.
Well, if you can't tell, yeah, we're going to get into some horror tonight from 1985. And if you're not caught up, no problem. But if you want to go check out all our episodes, I'd say just go to neverheardpodcast.com. What about you, Craig?
I would recommend the same. You can go there. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Podcast, as always, is on the old iTunes or Stitcher. We're in most places.
But are we on Elm Street?
No, we're definitely not Elm Street.
Whoo!
Someone is coming back to Elm Street. He is not friendly. He is not patient.
Kill for me.
And he is not a welcome visitor.
No!
But he has something terribly special for the new kid on the block.
Let's talk about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Craig?
Shawn?
You've told me you've seen this movie quite a few times.
Yeah.
I think we should start watching it again.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about this movie? And can you put it into some kind of context as to how either good, bad, equal, indifferent it is to the other movies in sort of the original set of Nightmare on Elm Street movies?
I'll do my best.
Okay.
The first one was
terrible,
always
right?
What's that?
Just terrible, right?
The first one was awful. Why they made more sequels, no one will ever know. No, the first one to me was always the scary one. The rest of them sort of became less and less scary as time went on. So the first one was scary. The second one always felt a little odd. Mm-hmm. It still was treating Freddy like he was scary, mostly. You don't have all the sort of one-liners and everything that you have in the rest of them. Like starting with 3, he is a joke machine.
Yes.
And 3 is great, but yeah, it really becomes kind of a comic book, which is fun.
Yeah.
But 2 was always odd, and definitely when I was a kid, I did not pick up really on the subtext of what was going on.
Yeah.
And I would say that it's very possible that 2 is the only Nightmare movie that has a lot going on in the subtext.
It does. And
Yeah.
maybe we should just say, like, yeah, if you skipped the tee-up episode for this movie and this discussion, we talked a little bit about how there's a lot of stuff online about how this movie is filled with homoeroticism and the subtext of a character who is closeted, dealing with those inner feelings, I guess. And knowing that going into it, yeah, if you're looking for it, you're definitely going to find it.
Yeah.
Maybe even if you're not, it's right in front of you. You know?
Yeah.
So that was the different experience for you this time watching it?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But before, to me, it was, I don't know, the humor in it always felt a little off. The performances were not necessarily the sharpest, but it always kind of had, I guess I was always surprised because this, as a sequel, it really does have a story that is as involving as the first one, and yet is not a retread of that first story.
Gotcha.
It's very similar. It's using the same rules. It's building on the foundation, but exactly, like I kind of felt like that was a really interesting way to go with it. So yeah, what were your feelings? So you've never seen it before, is that right?
Nothing about it struck a chord other than the "you've got the body, I've got the brains" line.
Oh, right.
Just because I think like that's permeated pop culture at this point.
Right.
And maybe the image of the sort of Freddy tongue. I guess it's Freddy's tongue, or it's supposed to be. Sort of the monster tongue coming out of Jesse in this movie when he's getting hot and heavy with Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I kind of remember that image.
Yeah.
Beyond that, no. I think Dream Warriors was definitely my first introduction to this franchise, and I've seen the original certainly since then, but it's been a long time since I've watched that even.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I have no clue if I've seen any of these other movies. Probably.
Yeah. They get pretty bizarre.
But I just want to take a second, though, because I was curious what you thought about this. Like, to me, watching this, and then the other movie we're talking about is Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. And we talked about last time how that is sort of almost like a reboot of the franchise in a way, because Part 4 was supposed to be the final chapter, right?
Right.
And I wondered if maybe Nightmare on Elm Street 2, because again, this is the #1 horror movie of the year, actually got a box office boost because of the expectations coming off of the previous movie, which again had only been out a year before. And maybe Friday the 13th actually was hurt at the box office because of the low expectations coming off of, oh my God, they made another one of these after they just said it was a final chapter. Because I do think Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is it's not scary. Like, there's nothing about it in this movie that was frightening to me at all.
Not really.
And
no.
I spook easily.
Sure.
I also thought I wanted more Freddy. And like, that's a very fine line to walk too, because like you say, you can get way too much Freddy and he turns into, like, you know, a late night TV host.
Yeah.
And that's not good either. But here I was just a little confused by the lack of Freddy and the general sort of gist of the transition from Freddy being the guy that's haunting Jesse's nightmares and killing people to then using Jesse to kill people. Like, that to me is still like,
right.
I don't know. Like, a lot of this movie, just like story wise and whatnot, was just straight up ridiculous. And from the word go. And yeah, I mean, I think the subtext of it and all the other stuff is kind of interesting. Like, in some ways, if you could just remove the Freddy element from this, it'd be really, really interesting kind of character study about this high school kid losing it a bit,
you
know?
Yeah.
And being the new kid on the block and trying to kind of fit in at this school. There were still moments where I'm like, man, this original concept is pretty interesting. Like, the concept of Freddy, like this guy that haunts your dreams, and just specifically who he is and how he looks. Like, that's creepy, no doubt. And it's a shame in a way that it kind of became the comical, I guess, or even like the stuff of parody.
Yeah.
Because I do think, like, yeah, like, that's a mess. Like, this guy that killed kids that haunts you in your nightmare, like, that's messed up.
Yeah.
You know, and can kill you in your sleep.
Yeah, and that was always so effective too, was that feeling of, you know, you don't want to go to sleep, you're trying to stay awake. No one can stay awake forever. And there's always that moment of, wait, am I asleep? Am I awake? And him being able to get you. Just going to what you were saying about not having a lot of Freddy, I kind of think that's another reason why I like it. And I totally understand what you mean.
Yeah.
And I do feel the same way to a degree, but I kind of feel like, but that's also what keeps him feeling menacing. Is like, he's not just there every second of the movie. It's like, when he shows up, things are pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And I haven't watched the original in a long time, so I may be not remembering that very well, but I kind of feel like that one was the same way. Like, that movie was about Nancy, and this movie's about Jesse, you know, and it's not about Freddy. It becomes about Freddy, in the third one. Then it's all about Freddy.
Yeah. Yeah, like I say, I think it's definitely, like, usually a case where less is more. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like, I'm talking about like a small percentage more, or just the moments that he's in, I guess, like I wanted to be a little more frightening.
Sure.
I suppose.
Yeah,
and like maybe that
yeah.
way you feel the presence of Freddy a little bit more, and it's less about like actual real estate,
right,
than it is just about what he's doing when he's there.
Right.
You know?
Well, and I think it has, you know, a little bit to do with, this is also the movie where things start sort of getting really explained, I guess.
Yeah.
And that always kind of hurts a little bit.
It does, because I still came away confused a little bit. And actually, like, the scene I think maybe that's the most exposition about who he is when, like, oh God, we'll have to get into I mean, like, when I say the movie's ridiculous, there's so many moments where humans are supposed to just be humans, and they fail at like doing human things, right? Yeah. And one of them was sort of like piggybacked on this dance montage where Jesse's just like partying in his room to some music and like getting his butt right up into his drawer to close it as he's putting away his clothes. And then Lisa, the girlfriend, shows up unexpectedly, and the mom lets her in the room, you know, and Jesse says something about, I was just cleaning my room. And Lisa's like, I know. It's like, how would you know that? Like, no, you don't. Like, how you could tell that? Like, you just walked in. Like, he wasn't, there's no way you could tell. But anyway, that's the scene where they kind of get, I think, into the diary of, now, was that Nancy from the original?
That was Nancy's diary, left behind conveniently in a very easy to spot space in the closet.
For sure. But I do like how they handled that scene, because it started out like they're reading it and it's like, oh, you know, it sort of sounds like she's describing like seeing the neighbor naked, and then like this interaction with this guy, like it's going to be some sort of like steamy like love scene affair thing. And then just the way it turns into, you know, and then he killed somebody. Like, I was like, oh, like that was cool, I thought.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, explaining it is one thing, and then still I was confused. And we talked a little bit about the fact that, you know, Freddy is completely visible to all those kids at the party at the end of this movie and killing some of them. And I was like, well, is this happening in a dream? Like, I don't know. Is he acting through Jesse's body and Jesse's not asleep?
Well, see, that was... And you're absolutely right. But I always explain that away by the fact that he kind of came out of Jesse's chest in that one scene.
Right.
I mean, it's not the best explanation, because then he's in a mirror that Jesse's looking at. Right. But then
Jesse's not dead.
Right. And then he does come jumping out of the concrete of the pool. Mm-hmm. In real life, that's going to take some planning. Yeah. It's a lot of logistics.
Right.
But yeah, I always kind of thought of that as you know, I brought him in the real world, because Nancy brings him into the real world at the end of the first one. Okay. And it's just for a short time. But she's like, oh, if I can bring him, because she brings his hat out at some point. That's how you kill him? She's like, oh, if I grab onto him and I wake up at the same time, then I'll bring him into the real world. Yeah. Which is great. Sure. But yeah, I mean, certainly when you're making a movie about people who get hurt in their dreams and all of a sudden weird stuff can happen whenever, people do start to play pretty fast and loose with that.
Yeah, I think you have to a little bit.
So yeah, I mean, I thought all of that happened. That was my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely happened, because there's other people there, and they're witnessing it and they're hurt by it.
But no one from the party ever comments on it later. Like, that was the thing. Like, at the end of the movie, when the girl's like, "Hey, that party was really good," and I was thinking, wait a second, people definitely got trampled and killed. Yeah,
was
there.
she at the same party?
Party? But then, of course, it's a dream, so it's like, oh well. Yeah. I don't know. There isn't that sort of a strict Inception dream world, you know, rule book that's being kept here.
Well, and it just, I don't know, I guess piggybacking on that, like, it wasn't clear to me, like, why Freddy wants Jesse to kill for him, because he does, like, specifically say that, I think. I mean, I don't know that it matters. Like, again, like, if you try to explain that in the movie itself, you know, you're bound to get, like, something not good, right? Right. But do you make heads or tails of that? Like,
Well,
He just likes to kill kids, and that's like the easiest way to do it.
well,
as
his
opposed
thing.
to getting in somebody else's head.
Well, his thing was always that he's getting revenge on all those parents who killed him, right?
Yeah.
So he's gonna kill all the kids on Elm Street. So then this new kid moves into the Elm Street house. But I mean, why is that the Elm Street house? Because his house is the old power plant that for some reason has lights on all night and is still working.
Yeah. Sure.
It's a good question. So, but I mean, Freddy did ostensibly die inside of that house.
I can forgive that. Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, why not just keep going after people in their dreams?
Yeah.
Like there's only gonna be like one kid who's ever gonna fight back. The rest of them have no idea what's going on.
Right. And I only really bring it up is because I think that actually led to the weakest part of the Freddy storyline for me was at the very end when he's ostensibly trying to kill Lisa, and I think they're back in that power plant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it appears that Lisa's strategy to defeat Freddy is to just keep telling Jesse that she loves him.
That's right.
And
That's how you beat Freddy.
I thought, no, that's not how you beat Freddy. I think that's a pretty big risk you're taking there, Lisa.
Yeah.
Young Meryl Streep, and and I wasn't sure that would work necessarily.
I didn't either, but all of that, I think all of this is just all bundled up into the fact that we have some filmmakers here, or at least a screenwriter apparently, who is intent on sort of using this movie as a way to sort of talk about a kid who's in the closet and has a lot of burgeoning feelings he doesn't know how to deal with, and it's very scary for him.
Right.
And
if he just accepts Lisa's heterosexual love, he can kill the monster, the gay monster inside of him.
See, that's really where it falls apart. Like the rest of it kind of makes sense. Like kind of being scared, you don't know what's going to happen. But then once Freddy comes out, then people are just dying. And exactly like until you kiss a girl, you can't destroy this monster. Yeah.
Well, and I don't think I mean, I said that, but I don't think that's really the intention there.
Well, it's not the intention,
I mean,
but definitely theme-wise, like you can't ignore that ending.
Sure.
Because they're never. Because Shawn, do you ever feel like these two are really boyfriend and girlfriend?
And in fact, that was a big question I had, was even whether or not they were dating. Like it wasn't clear to me up front, but I've got to say, like, I mean, they're making out. Like there's boobage, and he's rounding the bases.
Sure.
I didn't necessarily read, and we should just go ahead and get into all this.
Yeah.
I didn't read Jesse as a homosexual, or even necessarily closeted, I guess, per se. I think there's a lot of homoeroticism to the interactions that he has with Robert Russler, a buddy from Weird Science, particularly. And the coach, the gym guy, I mean, for sure.
Well, he's like the blatant representation of it all, yeah.
Yeah, and his death. I mean, he's naked in a shower, getting
whipped
hit
by
with a towel,
demonic
in the ass
towels.
cheeks. Yeah. I mean, that's amazing, and like also amazing that none of this was like, hey, wait a second, what's going on in this movie when you were a kid, or
not at all.
I'm sure like hundreds of other kids just watched this and like didn't like bat an eye about it. But I don't know. I mean, do you read Jesse as homosexual in this thing, even as closeted?
Well, all I can really say is every other time I've watched it, I didn't read it that way at all. Yeah. This time I definitely did, because that's what I was looking for. Yeah. And it really was kind of like when they're making out, and it seems like, oh, here we go. Like I don't know, I don't want to say it, like everything's gonna be fine, but it's like then Freddy comes out as he's making out with her, and he's like, oh no, I gotta go. That's and again, it just feels like, this is a kid who's struggling with his sexuality. He does not know if he's coming or going right now. Right. And like he's trying to figure it out, and certainly in 1985 America, that's a scary prospect for a teenager. And Russler lays it out, right? Because he goes to Russler's house. He's like, don't fall asleep. Like, watch me if I'm, if I start to act crazy, like wake me up. Yeah. But Russler has the line something like, so you could be with your girlfriend, but you're here with me right now. All right. Like in my room. And I'm kind of like, yeah, man, that's these are all the questions that are being put to Jesse right now. And he can't deal with it.
By the way, I don't want to let the moment pass without asking, did you notice that Robert Rustler had a leather like duvet on his bed?
I love that.
Or vinyl
That
or
room.
stuff.
That
room's
room is
amazing.
amazingly 80s. That
Yeah.
wallpaper is incredible. Like everything about that room. Oh, yeah. The leather duvet, man.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a kid with a leather duvet. You know what I mean?
It never crossed my mind that such a thing even exists. I gotta be completely honest.
Well,
I missed out on that boat. Yeah.
Well, and as long as we're on Rustler, he was also delightfully weird in this movie.
He is, and he sounds like a completely different person.
Yeah.
He's pretty good in both of these movies, I think,
Yeah.
in the roles that he has.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, just to get back to the thing, I think it's a really interesting layer to this movie. I mean, in some ways, like, by far the most interesting thing. Like, if that is the read that you take on it, is like this is a kid trying to make sense of like his feelings inside and fit in this place, and knowing that he's different from the societal norm. Especially because, like, one of my favorite lines was when the mom is saying that Jesse needs therapy, and Clu Gulager, the dad, is like, he needs a good goddamn kick in the pants. Right. And then later it's like, what he needs is a methadone clinic, which, those are two very different things. If you think your kid needs a kick in the pants, that's one thing. If you think he needs a methadone clinic, get him help, like, period. Like, you know? And
Clue is a national treasure.
He is so interesting in this movie. And funny.
I mean,
but
his rhythms are incredible.
But it is like, I do think even within that, you've got parents who are, you know, both being sensitive to the fact that their kid is going through something and still kind of clueless about the actual, like, you know, the fact that he even needs help, period, right?
Yeah.
If it is his sexuality. So I do think maybe it just is the ending that is really problematic. Other than this, maybe how blatant the subtext is,
right,
when you really, like, pay attention to it. I mean, like, that freaking dance montage, dude. He's got, like, what was that weird, like, completely phallic wooden toy thing that he's hanging onto right in front of his crotch and, like, popping off with it as his mom walks in.
Well, you know what's funny is I was looking up what the thing was.
Yeah.
And trying to get, like, what the real name of it is, and I put Popper in, like, I was Googling Popper.
Uh-oh.
And one of the things that comes up is Poppers, which was kind of a popular sort of low stakes drug at a time was very popular in the gay scene.
Interesting.
And I was like every road I'm going on right now.
What about
it's kind of bringing me back to this theme.
What about Stay Up pills, which are STA-UP? Yeah, I loved that. Also, did you notice the cereal box that the daughter, the sister, is eating? Fu Manchus, CHEWS. Brilliant.
Fu Manchus.
Do you think those are real?
It doesn't look like, no.
Okay, I mean, it doesn't. Either, right?
To me, that was the thing. Like the artwork on that, like, it didn't look like it was so designed for her to take those fingers out.
Yeah,
and have that moment. But, you know, here's another thing I wasn't thinking about before, and maybe it's only the kiss at the end that really kind of ruins the story under it.
Yeah,
maybe it doesn't ruin it, but it's sort of like, so he goes to Rustler's, Grady is his name in the movie. He goes to Grady's room. And by the way, just goes into Grady's room, like in the middle of the night.
Well, yeah, that's just what you do.
How did he get it? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think he climbed up through the window.
Maybe.
But still,
that's
just to set the stage for this, I'm still not completely sure that these guys are friends.
Yeah, like, really. I thought they became friends at the very beginning, just sort of
kind of
friends, even because they were being punished together.
Well, they fight each other in the opening, scene between the two. Anyway, yeah.
But I mean, Freddy essentially comes out in that scene.
Okay.
So, like, if Jesse's scared of his feelings and he's got feelings for Grady, that's where the feelings come out. And this is his worst nightmare, is that that this thing inside of him is going to hurt his friends and like destroy his friendships and stuff like that. So I'm trying to look at it as, I'm trying to hold it together so the end works, Shawn. I'm trying to figure out my way there.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because Lisa, I think in that scene where she's just repeating that she loves Jesse, But she's saying it to does she kisses Freddy too, right?
She kisses him, yeah.
So
like
gross.
I feel like that's the only thing I can't get around. Like just being supportive and saying I love you, like everything's going to be okay. We can figure this out. Like that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, actually,
maybe
really
it's like
improves
this
the movie.
is what it feels like to kiss someone from an opposite gender, if you're not so inclined to be attracted to that.
Or I mean, he could be bisexual.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's so close to actually like having a complete.
It really is
through line that I do think that falls apart there at the end.
It's like finding an entirely different movie inside of another movie. That
That's interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
I do kind of wish I could go back and watch it without that, just to see what it would be like. But did you notice who Grady's father was in that scene? Because we only see him.
Oh yeah, Ferris Bueller's dad.
Lyman Ward. I had no idea that guy's name is Lyman. Lyman. What a great
that's
name.
fantastic.
Yeah, Ferris Bueller's dad. How about that? Let's talk a little bit about Jesse himself and Mark Patton, because I think he sold it in this movie. I mean, I think he did his damnedest with that performance there.
Absolutely.
And we talked a little bit about, and you can go online and read all this stuff. Maybe try to cull some of it together. But he certainly makes some claims that he was pushed in a direction of emphasizing the subtext of being closeted there.
All right.
And I think maybe most noticeably in the screams, because he screams a lot in this movie, and it's a very high-pitched scream, if you will, just to follow, the sort of stereotype there. But man, the first time you see him in this movie is in a dream or a nightmare.
Yeah.
Dude, on the back of that bus, I was like, this kid's got leukemia or something. Like, he looks horrible.
He really looks pretty bad. And
I was
hair is all matted down, and I don't know what that's about.
And I thought, well, holy shit! Like, if they're playing this guy because I didn't know it was a dream at that point. It was like, oh man, here's this kid that's like really a loner in high school, and it was like, oh, well, that's interesting. If he's supposed to be gay, and then like this is what he looks like. I mean, damn, like, but it's not. It's just part of the dream sequence.
Well, and that's the thing. Yeah, that's one of the things about this movie. It's so slippery because like you're writing down notes about a scene like that would never happen. It's like, oh, it's a dream.
Yeah.
All right, scratch that one out.
And it's a very elaborate dream. Like, let's just talk about that for a second, because like if Freddy is creating these things, like that dream in particular, like you're on a bus going to school, and then the bus starts going too fast, and then the bus is like going through desert land, and then it's like on a stone pillar over the bowels of hell, basically. And I was like, Jesus, this is like both elaborate and ridiculous. That's a lot for Freddy to go through, to just like, if he's just trying to fuck with somebody or kill somebody.
He's been planning it out for a while.
Yeah.
Also, I kind of think it's interesting that just as a note for our subtext, the first thing that's happening on that bus, or his first interaction with people on that bus, are two girls in a seat up ahead of him, sort of looking back at him and kind of like giggling about him, like he's some kind of outcast, essentially. Yeah. Or at least that's how I took it.
No,
so it's already
I think
like immediately.
Well, yeah, and I think it's interesting that it is two girls, and then you get the sense, or at least I did, that once we do see him at school, and there's like a baseball game, and it's clear that Rustler is sort of the alpha male in this group, and then the next thing you know, like they're fighting. Yeah. And as they're fighting,
butts in the air.
Jesse's ass is hanging out with a jockstrap on because his pants keep getting pulled down, and he very clearly is trying to lift up Robert Rustler's shirt, which again, if they were pushed to do that by the director, which I can only imagine they were, then that is a little iffy for me. But I totally thought, okay, well, Rustler's clearly the bully in this movie, and this is like it's only going to escalate from here, and it doesn't. Like it's almost immediately then that they're in the locker room, and boy, are they in the locker room shirtless a lot in this movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the abs are flying. That it's like, oh, they don't really hate each other. Like there's not that kind of relationship here. There's something a little bit different, and I don't know. I don't really get the sense that they were friends prior to that baseball thing.
Well, I mean, I think he's too much of a new kid.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, I don't think he's really friends with anybody. Like,
yeah,
you know.
But it was sort of like, okay, this happened, but you know what? The freaking gym coach is worse than, you, new kid. You know? And then the new kid can be like, yeah, you're right, he is. And I think that's actually when, prior to that locker room scene, after the fight, I think the first words out of the gym coach, or some of the first words, are assume the position. Raising flags. And then Russell actually says, like, about the gym coach that he hangs around queer joints and S&M clubs, and that's, again, their language, not mine. But it was like, man, yeah, this is not wasting any time, like, shoving this in your face. Like, it really is kind of crazy in that regard. And I don't know. I mean, I just haven't gone down the rabbit hole to know, like, if there are other horror movies that deal with that subject of, like, being closeted and like, your intersexuality versus the facade you're putting out there. But it is an interesting subject for a horror movie, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, certainly if you're dealing with that anxiety, like, it'll tap into something real, very real for you. And really, I think it taps into it almost for anyone at that age.
Yeah.
Like, you can understand that feeling on some level, no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this kid, like, if they had taken out all the like blatant homoeroticism, he's like, yeah, he's just like a normal teenager, like dealing with normal teenage shit, Yeah. And the angst involved and all that, especially being the new kid. I love, and I feel like this is an 80s trope thing, but maybe not. And I don't even have a great example right now, but just like guys in high school having shitty cars, like, and he's got a great one in this one, Of course, it's like a convertible, but I loved that. It was a little confusing to me. Like, does Lisa show up to get her ride to school, or I don't know. Like, that was our first interaction with her, right?
Yeah, she's like at the door.
I was like, why is she's a neighbor? Like, it just didn't feel like a girlfriend, and maybe that plays into the whole.
It really never did. Like until they were making out. Like, her friend seems to make allusions to, like, have you guys, I
know, like, right
gotten
off the
down. She's like, I'd like to, and she doesn't really know what's going on either. But yeah, I mean, I never felt like they like at the end when she's saying "I love you." If you're trying to pass that off as a like heterosexual relationship, it just feels like I don't think there's enough there for that at all.
Yeah,
but it also continues sort of the trope of, well, I guess it was really only a trope in our Once Bitten Fright Night episode. Of very understanding girlfriends.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, she walks past two dogs that have human faces to go face who knows what for this guy. So
should I bother asking you why those dogs have human faces? Like, what the hell was that about?
I don't know if there's a deeper reason. All I know is that's one of the best sort of cheesy but scary, weird things. Yeah. Like, it's just you don't see it coming at all. It's not like perfect CGI, so it just feels like two dogs wearing masks, but that's kind of weird too.
Yeah, it was very strange looking, and like if you do a Google image search for this movie, you'll see that. Like, it definitely pops up. Like, I'm sure that was one of those things that was in Fangoria maybe or something.
Sure.
I noticed, just to continue on the Jesse front, and I think it's around like the cleaning montage dance sequence. Did you notice a sign on his door to his room?
Yes. No out-of-town chicks.
No out-of-town chicks, but I swear to God, the I had been added. Like, it was a piece of... Like, so what did...
Oh, so no out-of-town checks.
Checks, okay.
It's like
what
is
yeah. Got it.
No, I know.
Okay.
Honestly, it's funny you say that, because like I spent a lot of time with that on pause trying to figure out what.
Okay, good, because I was like, what is this? Is it Chucks? I don't even know like another word. That's my ignorance there, but thank you. That makes so much more sense.
Yeah. That's why I'm here, buddy.
Okay. The biggest, I think, break in realism for me in this movie also involves Jesse, and is the moment when he's in anatomy or just biology class or whatever. Someone manages to get out and put on Jesse a snake
Mm-hmm.
without the teacher seeing.
That's right.
Craig, how would that be humanly possible?
Well, Shawn, first of all, I'm going to assume you haven't been in a lot of biology classes where they have boa
Pythons?
constrictors.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Well, right there. That's why you don't understand it. They're
I'm at a
very
disadvantage,
stealthy animals, and if you pick them up, it's like they disappear.
Okay.
So,
So the teacher turns his back, and that's all you need is like a split second. You can do all that. You can get Snake out. You can wrap it around Jesse's shoulders. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're a senior, you could do it. Probably a junior couldn't.
Man, seniors rule, dude.
Seniors rule, bro.
Oh, Jesus. Well, speaking of,
Yeah.
let's talk about that party then, because, I mean, that is like a big moment of this movie. And I do think maybe this would be of note for 80s movies, and we'll have to keep our eyes peeled as we continue down the road of 85 for a teenage party where the parents are at home.
Yeah, that is an interesting little bit of business, although, I mean, I can kind of see that. Yeah.
I thought it was a nice change because I was like, wait a second. You're telling me her parents
you
at
guys
home?
can have your part. We're not going to bother you.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to go up to the thing. I mean, the thing, and I'm glad they actually acknowledged it.
Yes,
but it's like,
that was the weirdest thing, yeah.
Right. There's a bit where they're watching the windows, waiting for the light to go out. Light goes out, they crank up the music. I'm like, guys, they're right there.
Yeah. It was worth it for that moment, though, to me, because prior to that, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, they're doing this with the parents at home? Like, what am I watching? And the dad's cooking hot dogs and handing them out to kids. But, yeah, it was worth it for the moment when the parents go upstairs. I think to get it on, I mean, it's sort of what they were implying they were going to go do.
Idea.
Which is kind of fun.
In a way, what better time to do that? Like, your kids are not going to come to your room right now.
Yeah.
Like, that's simply not going to happen.
That's true.
This is the most privacy you're going to have for a while.
Well, and then you get nice parallel action because Lisa's trying to get it on with Jesse at the same time. So it's like
they really could have intercut those two scenes.
Falls. Yeah. God. That would have been terrible.
Now, well, here's my question about the party.
Okay.
Why are all of Lisa's friends in their late 20s to 30s?
Well, Craig, isn't everyone in this movie?
I guess so.
With the exception of Clu Gulager and Hope Lang, who look like they're almost in their 70s in this. Well, not really, but they looked very old to be parents of a teenager and a very young daughter, who I loved. The daughter was played by, let's see here,
Christy Clark,
who had one of my favorite lines in the movie, which was after Jesse is upstairs screaming himself awake after another nightmare, and they're all downstairs eating breakfast. She says, "Mommy, why can't Jesse wake up like everyone else?"
Yeah.
I was like, what kind of question is that? Like, I don't even think my 4-year-old would ask that question. Like, but that was amazing. I loved it.
Zero concern.
Good job, Christy Clark. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we're at the party scene. So the party goes into full swing. They pull out a wagon filled with beer that they've been hiding.
Yeah, Coors.
Which already seems like a bad idea, but at the same time, I could totally see that happening.
You gotta have it. I mean, you got to have it. This is 1985. Come on.
But then Jesse shows up, and so here's kind of the understanding girlfriend. Jesse shows up, covered in blood.
Yeah.
Just covered in blood, sweating profusely, and completely freaked out. Well, and tells Lisa that he killed Grady.
And that's the big distinction, because they've already talked about Freddy Krueger, Lisa and Jesse. And he's not saying Freddy Krueger killed Grady. He's saying, I killed Grady.
Right.
I also kind of wondered, too, because I can't remember. I feel like maybe there was mention of the police in the scene with Grady, or a siren, or something.
Oh,
or maybe I just thought about it at the very end. I kind of feel like if I'm Jesse at that point, I would turn myself into, like, yes, I welcome the police, because...
Yeah, make some sense of all this.
This is, I've got nowhere else to go. I'm going to die. I don't want anybody else to die.
Sure.
Because he thinks he's killed the coach at this point.
Yeah.
And his good friend.
That's
Robert Russler. So going to your quote-unquote girlfriend... maybe not the best idea.
pretty much dooms her all the way
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
But man, she's a good sport about it. You're right. She's up for the task of calming him down to the point that they can go try to get it on. Right?
Wait a second.
No, he
Oh,
left.
no.
Yes.
That was before.
That's how
That was
long this
before.
party scene is that he leaves.
This party scene goes on for a bit.
he leaves, kills a guy, comes back. Yes.
Well,
Party's still
wait
rocking.
a second. He
Right?
leaves. He goes to his friend's place. He falls asleep. His friend
that's
stays up, watches TV for a while, turns it off, goes to sleep. Then the guy kills him, and then he goes back to the party. So the party it's happening.
It's
And
rocking,
hey,
man.
why wasn't Grady invited to this party?
I wondered that. Oh, he got grounded because he threw his
that's right, he
grandmother
was
down a
grounded.
flight of stairs.
Yep.
Remember he said that?
Airtight screenwriting, buddy.
And not only that, like he said that while he had food in his mouth, which was great. I loved that whole scene.
I really love that guy.
So
that guy.
good. Why
His choices are pretty strong.
Yeah, I'm bringing his career back somehow, some
Oh
way.
yeah, seriously, we're coming for you, Robert Rustler. We like the cut of your jib.
Yes, but yeah, I mean that party is something else, really. I like that. As much as it didn't make sense to me necessarily, I do like that you're introducing Freddy to a larger audience, basically, of people in the movie, and then you get the dad coming out with the shotgun, trying to shoot him, which I was like, wait, is Freddy standing in front of all the other kids? He wasn't, I don't think. But there was a moment where I wasn't sure about where Freddy was positioned relative to the people that it appeared the dad was pointing the gun in their general direction, which I thought would have been hilarious. There's some great just random deaths or just random people getting stabbed by the Freddy hand.
Oh, man.
Kids, poor kids. I love that there was that one kid who was like, man, just calm down, man. Just take a breath.
Yeah. We're going to help, man. We're going to help you.
We're going to help. Which is...
yeah. Well, it's kind of neat because I kind of like Freddy as like just a savage animal.
Yeah.
Like you kind of see him just looking at these people. Like he could just as well be like a lion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of awesome. But yeah, kids are getting boiled in the pool. One kid's getting stepped on and killed. It's quite a bit of mayhem.
Well, let's talk about how this thing ends, because I'm even blanking a little bit right now, and it's only been like 3 days since I've watched it. There's separation from the party.
Yeah.
Freddy runs off, which means Jesse's run off.
Right.
And so even though the parents are aware that some maniac just tried to kill everybody at their party, they somehow manage to not notice their daughter run away. Or even if they notice, they still let her go.
Mom totally notices. Dad doesn't. Dad is just like, his mind is clearly blown. But
Mom, you got to stop your daughter. You got to stop your daughter from running.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't
guy.
let anybody leave because the cops are going to be here.
Yeah, you're going to have to give a
we
witness
need
statement.
statements.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of dead kids in the backyard. This is not the time to let your daughter drive off into the night. But drive she does. She was personally attacked. Like, I mean, the inside of the house is
It's true.
a
It's a
shambles.
Yeah, it's bad news.
No, I wouldn't let her run off. But I can kind of understand being shell-shocked.
Who are we to say what we would do in that situation?
Indeed. Let's hope we never have to know.
Yeah. I do think I would not go looking for him. That's, I think, exactly what Lisa does.
Sure.
And they end up in the power plant. We've talked about the kiss between her and Freddy. Freddy / Jason. Jesse. We talked about her trying to love Freddy to death.
You gotta love him to death, Shawn.
How does Freddy get dispensed in this movie? I cannot remember right now.
Okay, so, well, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but then it kind of does. So she tells him she loves him so much that all the metal in the place catches on fire, and then he melts, and he totally catches on fire and falls over, and then the fire all goes away, and then out of the burnt husk of Freddy comes Jesse, a new man?
Newborn child, yeah.
Maybe?
Maybe.
I think it's wise that they did not have an actual epilogue scene. Like the epilogue is another nightmare.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really make a lot of sense story-wise because all you can feel is like, so we didn't accomplish anything.
And so, and in the nightmare, is it Jesse that uses the glove to kill?
No. So it's their friend, and this is one of those endings that has stuck with me for so long. It probably scared me the first time. Now he's on the bus with Lisa and the friend who's kind of been on the sidelines the whole time.
Yeah.
Jesse starts freaking out because he thinks the bus is going too fast. And then it pulls over and picks somebody up, and everybody's like, just calm down, everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then Carrie, I think her name is.
Yeah.
Carrie says in a way that is just like, I feel like the director's just like, look, you're setting up the last scare of the movie. So you have got to say this clearly, and we only have one take. And Carrie says, don't worry, Jesse, it's all over. And then Freddy's hand like comes out of her chest.
Okay.
And then you just see like the
They
bus driving off into
scream,
the
right?
desert again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine for a scare. And again, it's a movie about dreams, so who knows what's going to happen. But you do kind of feel like, and it's kind of like the first movie in a way, which I think Wes Craven didn't want to do that shock ending.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of feels like...
So is this just going to go on and on?
Yeah, like none of this mattered. None of this loving Freddy to death. None of that made any difference. So why was he attempting something new? And why was this movie called Freddy's Revenge? Freddy is revenge. That's all he's ever wanted to do is get revenge. Anyway.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And
like he doesn't get specific. Like there's no specific.
He's not out for one
in
person.
This. Yeah, like Jesse has nothing to do with anything that happened to him. He was just a poor sap that moved into the fucking house.
Right.
Yeah. It's his dad's fault, honestly, right?
Yeah, because his dad knew everything.
Yeah.
God, Clue Geller is so great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it never kind of comes up that he pledged to kill people. But I guess no one really knows that except for the people who, I mean, Nancy kind of knew that he was out to get the kids.
Yeah.
But he was out to get the kids of the parents who killed him. So, I mean, this is already, I think, supposed to be a few years later. Wasn't it like 5 years later or something?
Yeah, something like that.
So it kind of feels like, I don't know, after all that happened, didn't all the parents like move their kids away? To get the heck away from Elm Street?
That house should probably be condemned.
Maybe. Certainly after the second movie.
Yeah.
Definitely. No one should be in there again.
Well, I don't want to conclude our discussion of this movie without mentioning the fact that there is a bird that explodes in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's a great moment, and you will love it if you haven't seen it.
Yes.
Because there are
if you're
feathers
a fan
raining down
of exploding birds
from the ceiling.
It's very surprising. And I would also say, we kind of touched on it, but I would say there's a really pretty darn good transformation scene in this movie.
Yeah.
Movies of the era, this was always like your set piece. You're going to have like a nice,
gnarly,
real makeup transformation scene. This was pretty strong.
I thought the effects and the makeup in general were quite good. I especially like that this movie revealed to me, I did not remember that at any point Freddy actually had the knives in his fingers themselves, as opposed to just being part of the glove.
Well, but that is the Jesse Freddy. That's the important distinction.
Wait, was it only Jesse Freddy?
Only Jesse Freddy.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, because they came out of his fingers. So
yeah,
that's
I remember
how you
that.
Knew it was like the reborn
I thought I saw it before that, but maybe not. And that transformation, so gross. Like the sweater popping through his arms and skin. Ugh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's some gross stuff in that. Even, I will say, my one memory of this movie was a line about, you got the body, I've got the brains.
Yeah.
That moment still freaking works. Like that,
I
thought that was pretty freaky, and like that's a pretty visceral moment, like him going and pulling his head back and revealing that. Like, that's just gross. Like, it's...
I think you're right. And
right?
I think, that moment, along with a lot of others, like I feel like this is the last movie where they really tried to hide Freddy's face.
Yeah.
They tried not to just show his whole face all the time, spotlight on it.
So much better.
And like,
again.
yeah, exactly. It's so, like, just seeing the sides of his like scarred face and stuff.
Yeah. And if you think about it too, it's like just
freakier.
even in the context of dreams, like it's rarely that you see something vividly, you know? So like having him in shadow and not getting a great look of him is way more terrifying, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Personally.
Totally agree.
Also, I just looked up Christy Clark here, who played Jesse's younger sister.
Mm-hmm.
If we have any soap opera fans out there, I'm sure we do. She played Carrie Brady. I think still does, on Days of Our Lives. She's done 462 episodes.
Yeah.
So good for her. That's amazing.
Hey, here's a question.
Yeah.
When the coach dies, the night the coach dies.
The night the
And
coach
first of all,
dies.
is it too on the nose that the first part of the dream where the coach is being attacked, it's nothing but balls flying at him. Because
it was too on the nose because he doesn't even freaking move. Like, it's like he does not try to get away from
it goes on for a
them.
long time.
Too long, too obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, it did make me kind of laugh a little bit. It was balls,
Right. But I guess that's the thing is I didn't feel like it was a joke.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like there's lots of stuff in this room.
Oh, yeah.
The only stuff that's flying at him are the balls.
And those are not things that are going to kill him, by the way, right?
No.
Tennis ball is not going to end your life.
Because he takes a few of those to the head. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is funny. Yeah.
But the night that happens, the police deliver Jesse to his home after they found him wandering naked in the streets. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel like, how is that not tied in somewhat to the investigation of how the coach died that night? Seems like some pretty odd circumstances.
Yeah.
And the police know all about it.
Yeah. I mean, this is a town that is no stranger to mass murder.
Right.
Done by maniacs. So maybe like, he's naked, but he's no Freddy Krueger. So
right. We know.
The bar is pretty high for murderers around here. So, yeah.
This kid seems a little too nice.
Yeah, maybe they're just like, he's gay, clearly. I mean, just take him home,
Oh, yeah.
It was like, but that's actually, that story about Jeffrey Dahmer is like that one guy got away, and I think maybe even he was naked. But
that's true.
The cops took him back to Dahmer because they thought it was just like some lover spat.
That's so hideous.
It's bad. It's bad.
This
movie
is terrible.
Was way ahead of its time in good and bad ways.
In good and bad ways. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I got to say, I got a lot out of this one this time.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't think... We can wrap it up after we talk Friday the 13th. I don't think it's a great movie by any stretch. I mean, I think there's a lot, like I say, it's ridiculous. I wanted it to be scarier. Don't like the ending. But I did like the Jesse character. I think that's well played, well performed, and goes in different directions than I expected, both with all the homoeroticism and none of the homoeroticism. Fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
I'll agree with that.
Craig.
Yeah.
Should we go to the vicinity of Camp Crystal Lake?
Let's go at least to the same group of counties where that happened.
If the memory of Jason still haunts you, you're not alone. Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning.
I'm going to give the synopsis to this because obviously there's a lot of these movies and maybe you've lost track even if you've seen them all.
Sure.
But this one is still haunted by his past. Tommy Jarvis, who as a child killed Jason Voorhees, wonders if the serial killer is connected to a series of brutal murders occurring in and around the secluded halfway house where he now lives. And I think that's a fair synopsis.
I say it's fair too.
I'll start on this one just because I mentioned it beforehand that I think the fact that this movie did not do as well as Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is maybe an unfortunate result of the expectations of this movie based upon previous films. Because, Craig, I surprisingly enjoyed the hell out of this movie minus the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And the last 10 minutes left me feeling like, this was maybe the best episode of Scooby-Doo I've ever seen. But it's still an episode of Scooby-Doo because of that ending. And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll get to that. But I was surprised. I thought it was well directed. That blew my mind. I mean, there's some solid shots. There's some solid scene work. That score, absolutely. You talked about it before.
So
I can't remember the guy's name.
Manfredini.
And it's not just the all that stuff.
Oh, no, yeah.
It makes you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Even in the opening credits, I'm like, I just kind of want to get away from this music. Like, it's making me feel that way. Yeah. I liked the lead performance by, why is he not the first billed person on this credits here?
John Shepard.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, John Shepard is Tommy Jarvis.
Mr. Shepard. I like the opening. This movie is interesting to me because there are vignettes of people getting killed that kind of seem like they have nothing to do with the rest of the movie.
Sure.
They're not characters who are in the rest of the movie.
Nope.
And I loved every single one of those scenes
Yeah.
so much. And this movie, I was introduced to a term by another podcast called Slums of Film History, which is great if you haven't listened to it. This idea of Hicksploitation, right? The idea that, Hicks are something to be feared and just awful people. And boy, there's two great ones in this movie with Ethel and her son Junior that live next door to this halfway house. And again, 99% of when they're on screen, I'm loving it. Like, it just made me laugh. I mean, that's the thing is, like, as a horror movie, I don't even know, like, what to say about this thing because, again, I don't think any of it's really scary. There's stuff that's gross. There's some great kills in it, which I think is what you're wanting at this point, probably with a Jason Voorhees movie. But man, there's some stuff that's kind of unintentionally funny and just fun. To me, this movie was fun. And I walked away thinking it's the better of the two. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me why I'm wrong. And I know it's maybe harder for you to disassociate yourself from your knowledge of the other movies. And I will happily look into and expect the ones before this movie to be a lot better. And it actually made me excited to really go watch them again.
Yeah. Well, I think
fair? Am I
they
crazy?
are better. Well, you're not crazy.
Okay.
I'll tell you right now, Shawn, rest assured you're not crazy.
Whew. I don't want to have to go to a halfway home because this is what happens.
You know what happens there.
Yeah.
No, I think if anything kind of throws me from this one, because this one is just, this is a really fun movie.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Through and through. Like it all it wants to do is just entertain you. And I think what kind of threw me back in the day more than anything was that I personally liked the vibe from these movies where everything is taken a little more seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you really start throwing in, because like Ethel and her son are pure comedy.
Yeah.
Like they are so over the top, crazy comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But at least it's funny, right?
Oh, exactly.
I mean, yeah. Like if that had not been funny, this movie would have been such a chore to get through. I think for me, anyway. Yeah.
But it's and it's so weird. But yeah, no matter what, it gives it some real personality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really the problem. I think, as I remember with the third one in this series, still taking it very seriously. But like I can't remember a single thing that happens in that whole movie.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Because I feel like by that time it was just like we need some generic teenagers, and then Jason's going to come in there, blah blah blah. Whereas like I can remember a lot of specific stuff from the first one. Definitely has a personality. Second one is really good. Fourth one definitely has a personality to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one kind of just really falls off the map. But yes, but just kind of the comedy of it threw me, and I didn't like it. I remember when I first saw it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it also kind of added to the feeling of just uneasiness.
Mm-hmm. And
probably mainly because at the time I just kind of felt like we shouldn't be joking about this stuff. Like,
yeah,
this isn't funny. This is scary and horrible. Like, why are people treating it like it's funny? So it actually kind of ends up being, one of the more kind of disturbing ones in a way. But you're absolutely right. Like, it's not super scary, except maybe in a cumulative way, where I don't know, maybe when you turn it off and you realize you've just watched an hour and a half of just people being murdered, that you're kind of like, that's kind of creepy.
I don't even think it gets that good graces because of the ending. Because to me, the way they explain that, and we'll get to in a second, but that negates the reason for any of these murders. I think I will argue, but we'll save that for another day. But I mean, my kind of like overall thing about this was wondering if there was a way for them to actually have a new beginning. And maybe the problem is that they did this so close to the other ones that it didn't maybe give the audiences a chance to just look at it on its own. Because I do think they would have had a good time, right?
Right. Well, it does kind of feel like the reimagining reboot.
It is
in a way, like we're going to kind of make fun of it a little bit, and we're going to, that would have been great 10 years later, and not like a year after. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was to say, and it's exactly because of, again, the end is it's just that Jason, he's not in this movie. Like, he is not in this movie except for in flashbacks and dreams and memories.
Right.
But actually, like, might as well start there at the beginning then, because the movie does sort of open with a memory of Tommy as his, what was he, 12 or whatever?
Yes.
That is played by, you've got Corey Feldman making a cameo here again. And I love that scene, man. Like, it's, you know, he's at Jason Voorhees' grave, so it's like, okay, Jason, I guess, is dead. It's like, is he going to rise up from the grave? Like, how's that going to work? Like, what are we talking about here? And the grave is like super fresh, right? Like, it's,
oh yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe is that like literally happening moments after the last one ended? I mean, or not long after that?
Well, that's the thing.
Right?
I mean, yeah. Tommy is not much older.
Yeah.
In this little bit, so yeah, you would have to imagine it's happening right after.
Mm-hmm. But it's just, I just liked it. Like, it's pouring down rain. I thought Feldman really sold the whole thing, and like I was like, oh, I'm totally down with watching part 4 then to see him, if nothing else, in that movie. I kind of remember it now, like seeing him with those glasses. But like, you know, it's a good performance from him in this thing,
it is.
And it like it sets the mood for actually a much more serious movie, I think. Although you do get these two grave robbers who come up to dig him up, and they're just like, it's like it's a party. They're like, woohoo, let's see the face of this guy. I was like, okay, these guys might be more sick than Jason Voorhees here. I don't know who would possibly be excited to do this. I mean, if you want to do it, that's fine, because you're curious. Right. I don't think you'd be screaming and laughing about it. I don't know.
No.
And so, you know, you kind of end with, obviously, Jason rises from the grave and kills those two guys, and it closes in on Feldman, and you cut to the credits. I forgot to mention that I do think Nightmare on Elm Street, the actual Freddy's Revenge part of the credits, where that title appears, I think that's also in the running for the worst font of 1985, for me anyway.
That is an amazing, like the collision of letters in that thing is just like, like they threw that in just at the last second. Yeah,
I forgot to mention that. But here, it's like, no, like you're cutting to black, you're just getting titles and that damn score, man. I was like, oh, I'm on board with this thing, right?
That was kind of their motif for all of these movies.
Yeah, it's great.
As I remember, that's how all the credits are at the beginning. Yeah, and it is pretty creepy. Yeah, because the music is super creepy, and you're just left with whatever that last image was, which was, and actually, let's get into this. So just before the titles, there, we realize this has all been a dream.
Okay, I couldn't remember if we flashed out of that.
Because you have Tommy like wake up in the van.
That's right.
And he looks like he's about 20 years old.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if they ever say how old he actually is. Mm-hmm. But
that sounds about right. I don't think he's much older than that, like 23,
right.
24.
Well, but that's the thing. So that, so I guess the thing is, all of these movies have taken place in present day.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's already right there.
This feels like we've jumped ahead a decade.
Yeah.
From like when everything happened before.
At least, yeah. Right.
But then, like, later, we'll have a couple of greasers, which I guess we'll be talking about.
We got to talk about that,
pretty soon. There's a lot of stuff that's just like, did we go 10 years in the future?
Yeah, I don't know.
Where are we here?
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. I've watched it how many times? I never think about it. Yeah.
If part 4 took place in, say, 1984, 83, whenever it was.
Yeah. We're like in the 90s now.
Yeah, no, it does not look anything. They did not futurize this at all. It never crossed my mind, Craig, but that's a great observation.
Yeah. I don't know.
But I do think, like, once you come back from those credits, you're sort of immediately introduced to the fact that the tone in this movie is going to be a little different than that opening. Because, you go to the Youth Development Center. You know, he's in a van. I like that. That guy, Shepard or whatever his name is, if you know who Steve Railsback is, the actor, like he was in the stunt, he kind of looks like that guy a little bit. Like, to me, he's
definitely got a similar vibe.
Yeah. And so he's in there and he's brooding, obviously. And like, clearly this guy just had a very traumatic experience as a kid. And I like how they played that. You're not going to get a ton of emotion out of that guy. The whole movie, I like that they stuck to the guns with that. But you show up at a halfway house. There's a hefty guy with curly hair. And I'm immediately like, that guy, he's dead. Like, that guy is going to die soon. I didn't know how soon and by how and which way, which I loved. But anyway,
Pretty good surprise.
the guys that are driving the van drop Tommy off, and then one of them, who I'll have to find this guy's name too because I kind of loved him, Bob DeSimone.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Balding guy, mustache, like immediately is like, "See you later, Pam," to one of the counselors, and just like wagging his tongue like a total horn dog.
Right.
And I was just like, wait a second, what just happened?
He's a real
here?
dirtbag, that guy. Yeah.
But I don't know. I liked all that stuff, and then Tommy is introduced to the main guy, Matt, that runs the camp, and like you find out that like he's a product of the state. Like he's been institutionalized basically and drugged.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting that they introduced that and even commented on it at all. And then Tommy's up into his room, and he opens his closet, and there's a freaking spider hanging down, and it's what's his face from Different Strokes.
It's Dudley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just hanging out and scaring him in his closet. And that's Reggie the Reckless.
Yeah.
I can't remember his last name, but yeah, that guy. And so it was just like, well, this is quite a different environment here than Camp Crystal Lake or even certainly the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, to me, it was like, okay, we're throwing all these interesting characters in, and in each instance, I felt like all of them at least had a trait that I could hang on to, right? Like, maybe there's a few characters that I could probably mix up in my head. I couldn't tell you their names now.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, like, they're pretty identifiable. And there's a lot of people in this cast, And like you're meeting them all like that. Yeah, the van driver guy is like, well, I didn't expect that I would see him again, let alone he has this awesome death scene, right? And then the sheriff rolls up, and there's two kids that were screwing in the farm next door, and then sure as shit, right after that, you got Ethel and her son Junior, the Hicks next door, and she's crazy, like she's just so over the top. She threatens to kill them twice to a sheriff like that.
Yeah. And everyone's just kind of like,
yeah,
that Ethel.
That made me, and like she turns and tells Junior, "Would you shut the fuck up?" I laughed so hard, Craig. Like I was dying. Like I was just like, I can't believe this movie is making me laugh. I did not expect that. And then she was like, "I'll kill every one of these loonies." And then she said she had a bomb strapped to her if the sheriff made a move. It was just like, you can't do that without going. You're gonna go to jail if you do.
Those also seem pretty questionable.
Yeah, but they're always like, yeah, that's a crazy Ethel, right? And I was just like, man.
I mean, let's face it.
This.
People start dying, and I don't remember that sheriff ever even considering for a second that it might be her.
Right.
After she came out and just started threatening everyone's lives.
She would be my pick, yeah. But yeah, the murders do start pretty quickly, and it, of course, I called it. It was the big dude. It was Joey, right? Who is played by, he was way up there, Dominic Brascia. Or Brascia. I don't know how you say his name. But Craig, man.
Oh, yeah.
I feel really terrible because I think perhaps his character is supposed to be autistic. I mean, he's got vibes of being on the spectrum, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
He certainly comes off immature in some way.
Yeah, for a guy his age. But like he comes out, right? And he's got chocolate all over his face. The dude, I mean, he like I wrote down he looked like a damn Garbage Pail Kid to me. Like I was just I was like, oh, this poor bastard. Like, he's got chocolate all over his face, and he's just annoying everybody. And of course, there's a guy chopping wood who's like one of the, patients of this halfway house. And man, I did not expect that. I mean, it's so stupid. Here's a guy with an axe. Here's big guy annoying him to death. Of course, that guy's going to turn the axe and just bury it into Joey's back, right?
Yeah.
I did not see that coming. And I kind of laughed, but it still was like enough of a surprise that I was just amazed. I was amazed.
Yeah. It's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly out of character for any of these movies.
Right. Okay. I wondered about that. Yeah.
You definitely feel safe in the idea that, well, if Jason's not here, that everyone's okay right now. And usually like the first, that first half an hour of the movie is like pretty kill free. We're just going to have some jokey times.
Yeah.
And, meet the dead meat.
I would say that's in like the first 15 minutes, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. No, it's real quick.
Yeah. I just couldn't believe it. It's like, he's dead. And then, of course, like the paramedics show up, right? And like that's just another added little bonus later because one of those guys is like the worst person on the planet. He's like laughing. The body is just there covered up with a sheet. Every single person in that halfway house is outside just staring at it.
Yeah.
And they lift the sheet to look at it. The paramedic does to check it out. And then when they like flinch, these kids that knew and liked Joey, he's like, bunch of pussies, and laughing. And I will say Craig.
Yeah.
The other paramedic, who is his own sort of like brand of stiff, a little bit weirded out by the whole scene as well. I wrote down, WTF is up with this other paramedic.
They really dwell on him. They
do.
And I don't remember that dwelling happening so blatantly.
Okay, I wondered about that because, we've seen a lot of movies.
Sure.
Maybe we're just, hip to foreshadowing a little more than others, but I don't know. I didn't quite piece it together that this spoiler was going to be the guy pretending to be Jason and killing people. Because why would you, right? Like, what sense does that make?
Exactly. Especially at the time.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way it's going to be him.
Yeah.
Because we came to see Jason.
Yes.
So okay, he's upset, but that'll pay off some other way.
Right. And we'll get into all the fun of this in a little bit too, and all the specific deaths. But that's it. I mean, that guy, this random little second paramedic number 2, is the guy killing everyone in this movie, save for the Joey character who got axed by another inmate at the house there, right?
Right.
And the movie is frustrating in the sense that is the guy who's killing it. But it was frustrating to me that when the deaths really start clicking in, when Jason shows up to the halfway house itself that night, there are so many instances, Craig, where they don't show Jason at all. You see his hand go up and he's got the machete, and then the machete comes down. You see his hands and he's pulling the leather strap around the guy's face and like gouging his eyes out. There was a moment where I think it was definitely I think the Jake character guy, the stutterer, played by Jerry Pavlon. I think he steps out into the hallway of this halfway house, and you see the hand go up with the machete, and it's just like, dude, you're in the hallway. There's literally no way for him not to see who's killing him, right?
Right.
He wouldn't just look at the hand and not see the rest of the body.
Like, you're a giant, 9-foot guy.
Yeah. So to me, I was like, why are they doing this? Why are they withholding us seeing Jason? Because one of my favorite moments in that opening is that first, like, real long shot of Jason just standing there after he's got out of the grave and killed these other guys. And like that, it's an iconic image. Just anytime you're seeing sort of like Jason, full-bodied, mask, machete, night, rain, like that works. So here he is killing people one after one, and they're withholding that from me. And I found that so frustrating, and I didn't know why.
Right.
So that then finding out the reason why was because he's not Jason. Oh, that just to me, it was like, I can't believe this movie did that.
It's so interesting that you bring that up because that never bothered me.
Yeah.
And I always just assumed he was always wearing the mask.
He is. I mean, I would assume so, right? I think the movie leads us to believe that because he's got the mask on at the end.
Yeah, and all the makeup for some reason around his head.
Yeah. Didn't even think about that, but yeah.
Yeah. It kind of touches on our Perfect Host movie a little bit.
Sure, it does a little bit, yeah.
It's just like, you're also a part-time effects artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I would assume he does too, but then it is kind of like, why wouldn't you show his face? It's not like anyone could tell the difference.
Not only that,
between any of these Jasons.
Yeah, if you want me to really believe that this is Jason, show me it's Jason killing these people. Yeah. Because but
honestly, it never bothered me. I can't.
Interesting.
I don't know why.
Because I thought for a second that they had done a misdirect and maybe because there's that weird, just like stranger guy who shows
Yeah.
up literally on the doorstep of Ethel, the crazy lady, and is like, I could use some food. Is there any work I can do? I'm like,
Right.
wait a second. Why the hell is this
Oh,
guy
yeah.
in this movie?
Yeah.
Is he going to be killing people or something? Or am I supposed to like think of him as he red
He's
hair?
there just to, exactly, just to add another
Yeah.
bit to the stew.
And that's
But no, you know what it
it's a
is, and I'm
mistake,
not
I
even
think.
thinking. I wasn't even thinking about this. The reason they're not showing him so much is because you're supposed to at least halfway think it's Tommy.
That never crossed my freaking mind, man.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I don't
Yeah.
really ever think about it either. Like I didn't think about it just now, but I think that the idea is you're supposed to think that it's
That
Tommy
he's
gone
doing-
crazy.
That's interesting. That never crossed my mind. I wonder, like now I'd have to go back and watch it and see, like, are there scenes where people are dying that, you would not be able to account for Tommy's whereabouts.
Yeah.
And there are certainly some.
And they kind of, well, they don't really. They almost set up a thing where Tommy doesn't like one of the kids, but I don't feel like they really try and push you in that direction enough.
No. Yeah.
And it would actually make more sense with the whole makeup around his head because Tommy,
Yeah.
and you would see this in part 4, like he makes masks like that,
Yeah.
like Tommy Jarvis, like that's his thing.
I do remember
So-
that. Yes.
Yeah.
Feldman. I love that too, by the way. Like that's
I
a
love
thing that should come, like summer school, like kids in the 80s
Yeah.
being into like horror makeup
Makeup
and
was
things
a
like that.
big deal.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
was. That needs to come back. So, just continuing with that storyline, once the damage is done and our Jason, in quotes, is killed and you find out it's the paramedic, the sheriff then explains that paramedic was actually the father of Joey, the Garbage Pail Kid, who was killed by the very easily annoyed guy chopping wood, and that somehow sent him into getting, like, he just decided he should kill people because his son was killed, which that kind of makes sense, okay? And that he would kill people at this halfway house kind of makes sense. Except for
Because-
the one person who actually killed Joey is not there, and he does not die, to the best of my knowledge, right?
It's true.
It's like, if you're going to get revenge for your son's death, how about you go after the guy that killed him and that
Actually did
is
it.
in custody, right?
Yeah.
So that was, to me, Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. But also this is the son that you have never acknowledged
Yeah.
as being your son?
No, that you put into the, institutions and homes for the bulk
Yeah.
of his life.
Yeah, so there's a lot of questionable stuff there in terms of someone actually snapping.
Yeah.
I still kind of feel like, and I think I said this last time too, it's like that is sort of a disappointment that it's not Jason, but at the same time, you've essentially gotten the exact same experience
Right.
movie-wise, but with a little tweaking, so it's not the exact same thing. And yeah, then you get to the end, okay, it's that guy. You're disappointed it's not Jason, but I still feel like you got your money's worth.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's a dumb explanation,
Yeah.
sure, but like it's kind of weird to be like, oh, but it wasn't Jason. But I mean, he did everything Jason does, like
Right.
everything that you like.
Well, and that's what I wondered, if like fans were like pissed about that.
I think that's a part of what it was. I think
Yeah.
it was just, but it could not be a real Friday the 13th movie
Right.
if it wasn't about Jason
Yeah.
doing that stuff.
And
Yeah.
I do think that's, to me, even as a guy not that familiar with the first four, I found that troublesome. But I definitely don't want to give the impression that makes this movie not worth watching, because it totally is.
No,
like,
it
it totally is.
Yeah. And I mean, let's get
Yeah.
into some of the vignettes here.
Okay, so let's talk about the greasers then, because I do think that is sort of the first murder that is post Joey's death, right? So these,
Yes.
I think, are the first, and it's two I guess teenage boys, you would say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously older than 16, because one of them's got a car and the other one is working on this car. I mean, you're just dropped into this scene where there's two kids on the side of the road in a car. They're dressed as greasers.
Yeah, it might as well be the 50s.
Leather jackets, yeah.
And they're kind of talking like greasers.
Kind of talking like a little sing-songy here and there.
Yeah.
That's sort of like, got the swing to it.
Sure.
It makes no sense. There's no
rivalry. It has no relation
whatsoever.
to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just there to up the body count. So one guy gets a road flare in his mouth.
Mm-hmm. Which that was another. Now, Craig, here.
Yeah.
Are road flares so bright that you cannot see the person holding them? I mean, wouldn't they illuminate the face?
It depends on your eyesight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's like,
if you have eyeballs from the 1950s, maybe.
Yeah. But the best part of this whole sequence is, and it is only multiplied by the amazingness that it happens again in this movie, is that the guy that's in the car, whose car it is, just suddenly says, I got to go take a crap, and walks out in the woods to take a dump. And that's when his friend is killed with the flare, and he comes back and is killed himself. And then, yes, there will be another shitting death in this movie later on.
I was going to say,
somehow
that's not
even
the only
better.
crap-related death.
Yeah, it's somehow even better. And I'm telling you, like this, it just touches my heart, this movie, that it did that.
It really does, doesn't it?
It was so amazing.
It goes to some unexpected places. So,
yeah.
So again, just to reiterate,
mm-hmm.
So this EMT
right.
is so disturbed by the fact that his disavowed son is dead that he kills two greasers that he's never seen before in his life.
Is there any chance that those two guys were supposed to be patients at the halfway house?
I don't think so.
It doesn't make sense, though, because why would they have a car?
Right. Why would they have a car? I mean, yeah, they're just in the middle of nowhere. No one has said that we're waiting for blah, blah, blah to show up. I mean, it's...
I do feel like at the halfway house, they're always like talking about like, oh, Tina and Eddie are off. Someone like names are thrown about people who aren't there all the time. So that was just for a second. True. I was like, well, maybe we should verify that this is not. Anyway. So yeah, that's the first kind of, death that you get. And yeah, it makes no sense. It is from a different movie entirely in a lot of ways. But again, it is fun. It is done well. Like it's paced well. I don't know. I like it.
It is.
Yeah.
Even the and I feel like this was like a ratings thing probably.
Oh, okay.
But even as the second guy gets his throat cut, there's sort of this quick like push in that's not a camera zoom, it's not any of that. There's this quick push in up so you can't see it actually happen. Yeah. That actually kind of feel like that actually makes it a little more effective even to me.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, because I was expecting, okay, here comes the big throat blood spray thing, and they didn't do that exactly. Yeah. I don't know.
It is kind of, it's not a terribly bloody movie, honestly.
No.
When you get right down to it.
Nope.
So that happens. So that's practice round number 1. The next night.
Even better
is Billy Dirtbag, who delivered Tommy to the halfway house the day before, is picking up a waitress who is super excited to go out with him, and I don't believe that for a second.
No, she looks like there's some Laura Dern in there, or I'm looking. Rebecca Wood is the actress. I don't know. There was somebody else that she reminded me of, but yeah, imagine a pseudo Laura Dern in a pink diner outfit, who for some reason, as a waitress, it appears, is the last one closing up the restaurant, which I don't know. I feel like,
one of those restaurants in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, the cooks should be, I don't know, chef or somebody that owns this joint should be closing it up.
It's like usually, yeah. But we don't know what the arrangements are.
Now, Craig, do you remember the first, so she makes Billy wait in the car so she can get ready. Now, do you remember the first thing that she does as she gets ready in the bathroom?
Yes, okay, and this is our first great round of totally gratuitous nudity.
Oh my gosh!
And also something that will follow us throughout the movie of people just really talking to themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And kind of talking a lot just to themselves.
Complete conversations. Yep.
Yeah. She starts to unzip her uniform, and she says "Showtime" as she pulls it open and reveals her breasts to herself
in the mirror. Just shakes them around a little bit
in the mirror. That never, even as a 12-year-old watching this movie,
I was like, this might be a little much. Yeah,
is that really? I'm
not sure they earned this moment. It also is like, if she's so excited to go out with this guy, boy, taking the time to say "Showtime" and jiggle, you're just delaying the fun that you could be having. I mean, in the
Why
car.
reveal yourself to
Yeah.
yourself?
He's in the car making a forecast for snow flurries and doing coke.
Snow flurries
man.
up the nose.
I really like that. That actor is actually. I mean, like he's a lot of fun. You know, he is like.
Well, yeah.
one
You
of
know
those
what's
faces
so funny
that's
is
great.
who was I thinking that he was? Because maybe he is who I thought he was.
He feels like the guy that was in the Micro Machines commercials back in the day. Do you remember that guy that could talk really fast? It's not that same guy, but he reminds me of that.
No,
guy.
it's definitely not.
I wish it
No,
was.
wow,
That'd
it's
be
definitely
amazing.
not. But he is. Yeah, he's like this. He feels like a really good actor.
Mm-hmm.
But he's playing a fantastic dirtbag, and he's just like he's waiting for her to come out, so he breaks out the coke, and yet again, talks to himself, says some super clever stuff, just talking to himself, and does some lines, and then gets an axe in his head.
Mm-hmm.
Which a little bit of trivia there. Apparently, doing that particular effect was so gross that the stunt guy who was doing it said that he almost lost his lunch.
Wow.
Doing that, and like in the movie, it's almost nothing.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even really remember it as being particularly gross.
Yeah, but his point was like, you know, most of my job is making sure that nobody gets hurt.
Yeah,
and this was just like looking at the back of this person's head. It just seemed so real.
I can see that. Yeah,
that's making me woozy.
Yeah, if you're the person doing that, would be great.
Yeah,
I loved that before the waitress comes out and meets her own demise, we have a cat scare in the restaurant.
Random cat scare.
Cat scare, because all good restaurants have cats walking around in them.
Sure.
This cat in particular, it looks like it jumped down from the ceiling, or like a ceiling fan. I mean, it comes in an angle. Yeah, it's a good ceiling cat that you want to have in your diner. Loved that.
In horror movies, Sean,
they just come
cats
from
are either
everywhere.
ceiling cats.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're wardrobe cats who just hang out in closets.
Yeah.
Until you open it.
Well, my cat does that. He likes to get in the wardrobe and the
Cupboard
closet.
cats.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
My cat's never gone on the ceiling, thankfully.
Well, not yet.
Yeah, it could happen tonight, but that'll be the end of it. So I think the next one, I will say by this point, though, I did question. I was like, so wait a second. Okay, this is Jason. He's back somehow.
Sure.
Are we near Crystal Lake, that area? Because I feel like if I'm Tommy, probably want to move somewhere else, right? Even if I'm going to like a halfway house, can I maybe request one that's not near like walking distance for Jason? Right. So that did make me confused
maybe you would
a
just
bit.
say to your psychiatrist, "Hey, I'll do whatever you want me to do, but can we go like west? Let's just go as far west as we can.
Yeah,
I just want to
California,
be as far
man.
away from here as possible."
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the kind of sex scene that we get then, because I think that was the next murder as well. If not mistaken, it's daytime rendezvous, little tryst by, I think that is Eddie and Tina.
Yeah.
Eddie played by John Robert Dixon. Tina, Craig, played by Deborah Voorhees.
That's right.
Her name is Voorhees.
How awesome is that?
Apparently, she got cast, or they did think it was very interesting in casting that maybe helped take it over the notch, that she had that name. Now, they've kind of been established as the lovers of the halfway house. I think they were the ones that were fooling around in Ethel's farm. They got brought back by the cops and created that whole bit. So they sneak off in the middle of the day. I think they take a sheet with them, set it down on the ground. She gets buck naked. And beautiful, beautiful woman. They have their moments. And then Eddie...
It's a really long moment,
It is a pretty long moment. And I'm trying to remember...
from my experience.
Yeah. There is a voyeuristic element because that weird the weird dude that just showed up to do some work on the farm to get food is watching. You find that out.
Yep.
And then Eddie, like all good boyfriends, says he has to go wash up in the river. And
As you do.
puts his pants on, leaves his shirt off, and goes down the river. And poor Deborah Voorhees.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Pause on that. I'm sorry to pause on that moment.
Yeah, please. I want to spend a lot of time with this moment.
If I'm Deborah Voorhees at that point, well, no, I'm sorry. If I'm Teen at that point, and he says, I'm going to go wash up in the river, my thought is, you didn't wash up first?
Yeah.
Now you're going to wash up?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Like, are you just
All right.
washing up your penis? I guess that makes sense, but maybe, okay,
Maybe.
if that's the case,
but
well...
what am I, chopped liver over here? Yeah, I'm not.
I mean,
anyway.
you just put your pants and you can go back to the house and do that later. I'm still laying here naked.
Indoor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I should go wash up too. But yeah, she's there. She just lays there and almost falls asleep, which I was like, yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like you're just out in the woods. You know, there's people nearby.
Well,
you got in trouble for this once. Maybe just go ahead and put your clothes on, you know?
I'm assuming Eddie brought her to climax. And then she's also kind of high. So
That's true, yeah.
I kind of see it.
Yeah, okay. I didn't really have a problem with it. I just mainly just because you expect that, like, okay, she's dead. Like, you know pretty quickly as soon as he leaves that she's going to die.
Right. You should not lay around naked in the woods
and,
if you're in a Friday the 13th movie.
Boy, she does meet her demise, I think, via some hedge clippers that cut her right in the eyes, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a gruesome scene. I love that the next time they cut to Eddie, he's done washing up, but is taking time to just throw stones into the river.
Yeah. Eddie's kind of a kooky guy.
Yeah.
And you know, I guess a part of me has always thought, just because they're kind of in this halfway house, and Tommy is, like, we know Tommy is kind of mentally, you know, unstable, and so all these characters have kind of their own quirks, you know?
Right.
And I always thought that these two were like nymphomaniacs.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just always assume like that's their deal.
Well, I mean,
and they're not supposed to be doing that, and that's like what the deal is.
As far as the information we have about their characters, what do we know?
Yeah.
They like to get it on. Yeah.
They do
in the middle of the day.
But yeah, like Eddie really has kind of a weird vibe to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just I don't know. He seems loose as a goose going back to that. Going back to the area over there.
But this scene, it doesn't end with her murder. You know, Eddie meets his own end via a leather strap when he's, and I kind of liked that scene. Like, I don't know, like to me, that was a death where you kind of justified not seeing Jason's entire body, or at least the hockey mask or whatever, because he's behind a tree and, like, you know, killing him. Creepy guy that was watching gets killed too.
Mm-hmm.
He gets stabbed in the stomach, right?
It's a threefer. Yeah.
So this is a big scene. And then today I watched a music video that you sent me, Craig, and we got to talk about this for a second too, because it was amazing. So I can't remember what the name of it was now, but you got to tell people about this thing, because it's we'll definitely share it. Yeah.
As I was looking up stuff on this movie, there's a little note at the end of it in the old Wikipedias that says there's a song from 2016 called A New Beginning that describes the loss of innocence after watching Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, at a friend's house. And I was like, what? So this group called Wolfie's Just Fine, which if you know your Terminator 2 references, you'll get that, wrote a song called A New Beginning. And it's about watching this particular scene and the feelings that it brings about in a young boy who doesn't have a handle on all things sexual yet, and certainly isn't ready to see someone just get straight up murdered right in front of him. And I mean, I've probably watched this thing 1,000 times in like the last 2 weeks, because I kind of can't get over how, I mean, in a way, it's not totally dissimilar from my own experience, because I was pretty young watching that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can't say that scene didn't have a similar effect. Like, I mean, here's the thing. So you're in this horror movie. We've had tons of slashers by this point, 85. And you have this couple that, for whatever else may be wrong with them, is a loving couple. It's not a guy who's like browbeating a girl and having sex with them.
They're happy.
It's not some lecherous guy attacking her. You actually seem to have two people who are really into each other and they want to go do it.
And they look good.
It's kind of nice. Yeah. And they look great. Yeah. And apparently it was always the intention to have a longer scene there. Where it was kind of just a place to kind of like chill out. And then, but yeah, so the song describes this kid watching the scene and how it's really beautiful and how he's kind of weirded out by the sex, but he's also really excited about it. And then Jason steps in there and everything goes just pitch black, and just how haunted he is. And I can't get over how, like, that song should probably be ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I have to say, it's great.
No, it's really
I mean,
touching.
melody-wise,
Yeah.
it's great, and just subject matter is maybe so specific that I can't possibly ignore it, but it's really good, and you can hunt it out on YouTube. Again, the name of the group is Wolfie's Just Fine, and the name of the song is A New Beginning.
Yeah,
and the video is great.
Yeah, I would say the video is a recreation of the scene. It actually uses like a little bit of the clip from the movie as this group of barely teenage, if that, boys are watching the movie, and then one of the boys is kind of inserted into the scene, and the recreation is just like screaming as these like horrible things happen. And the song is really kind of like singer-songwriter folksy a little bit, so it's the music is serious, and I think like the subject matter is too in a weird way, but it's just using this very sort of specific ridiculous thing from this movie that you got to be a pretty good diehard to have seen it in the first place. But it's fantastic. And if you look in the comments actually on the YouTube video, Deborah Voorhees herself commented on it, and she's seen it and loved it, and there's a couple of questions thrown back and forth that she answers. And then, but actually earlier, even before watching this, I had looked her up, and sad to report that apparently she's been fired from several teaching jobs in the UK.
Oh yeah,
because of this scene and because of students in particular, finding out about it. I think there was one mention of like some boys like texting images of it with her topless to her and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's unfortunate. I don't think she did anything wrong, obviously.
No.
She did her job. Like, she put something into that role, and it's very, very memorable. And you kind of hate to see that happened. So, sidebar. Should we get back to the killings?
Yes, please. I don't want to talk about my feelings anymore.
Again, we don't know a lot about Tommy. He's played very distantly. There is the one moment, though, and I think it maybe was even Eddie when he walks in to breakfast and is wearing a mask and is trying to like scare Tommy. And man, Tommy just goes Jean-Claude Van Damme on this dude. Like, he's got moves, he's ripped, and like just clearly knows how to fight, And so there's a bit of a raging bull inside of him, which I guess maybe could play into, us or the movie trying to suggest that maybe it's Tommy doing this killing. But man, definitely one of my favorite scenes of the movie is so unearned. But Reggie, the young man played by Shavar Ross from Different Strokes, who was only there at the halfway house because his grandfather works there, I think, right?
That's right.
His grandfather's a cook. He's always there hanging around.
What better place to have your grandchildren hanging around? Yeah.
He appears to like being there. He's very friendly with everybody. But apparently his brother, I don't know anything else about him, is in town for a little while.
Hey, what's his brother's name?
His brother's name's Demon, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
Demon. And so Reggie's going to go see him that night, and Pam, the female counselor, one of the two counselors, is going to drive him there. And Matt, the other counselor, says, you know what, why don't you take Tommy with you? It'd be good for him to get off the reservation for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So, I didn't think much of anything about this because, like, why would you? Like, what does this have to do with anything, right?
Yeah.
Turns out Demon is in town, parked in a van, which I think he lives in, at a trailer park, which has a neon sign, that says trailer park. Already, I'm in love with this, okay?
The trailer park.
Reggie goes and, like, knocks on the door of the van, and we meet Demon, who, where did he go? He's played by Miguel A. Nunez Jr., who's been in a ton of things.
Yep.
And he is dressed in sort of black heavy metal leather, I guess, a little bit. He's got a bit of a Jerry curl going on. One of the first things he says to Reggie is, "You hungry? Here, have an enchilada," which made me laugh.
Yeah. He's big on enchiladas, this guy.
Big on enchiladas. It turns out there's a girlfriend with him, Nina, in the other side of the van that Reggie didn't even see at first. She's awesome. And Pam comes over, and they're all talking. And for some reason, it appears as if Tommy just was not invited to come over to the van, or maybe he just said, you know what, you guys go ahead. I'm going to go stare at the trailer park sign that says trailer park.
Right.
And so as he's doing that, a motorcycle shows up, and it's actually that junior guy, the Ethel's very hick probably inbred son. I mean, he's definitely not all there, right?
He's not all there.
Yeah. And, he's revving at Tommy. Tommy jumps out of the way, is scared because Tommy's, got PTSD. And Junior thinks that's hilarious. And then Tommy kicks his ass, basically, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which is great. And that scene, all of it, is really just to set up the fact that then Jason kills yet another person who has to go suddenly take a crap, which is Demon, because those enchiladas, I think, bothered his stomach.
It's those damn enchiladas. And he runs
to
an outhouse. That's just a tin-plated outhouse.
Yeah. And well, I just want to say, before the end of this scene, I had already written down, if we get 2 shit deaths, this will be the best movie of all time. And
oh man, yeah.
I got worried for a second because I thought maybe it wasn't going to happen, Craig, because the girlfriend shows up, and it turns out she's the one that's sort of like shaking the walls of the porta-john, making noise. Which again, what is it with 85, man? We talked about this in Weird Science. You were kind of bothered by the fact that in that scene when Anthony Michael Hall invites the girls into the bathroom after Wyatt has just taken a dump. Girls, I mean, women, I know you're out there. Do you want to be anywhere near anybody while they're taking a dump?
No.
I don't.
Especially when they just said, "Oh no, those damn enchiladas." And ran out of the van. No, you don't want to be over there.
But she's over there poking fun of them, and then they start singing to each other, Craig, and I lost it. I mean, that was the next level for this thing.
That is amazing.
And then he tries to leave. I wasn't sure he wiped, but the girlfriend killed. We didn't see her die, right?
No, but we saw her on the ground.
Yep, she's on the ground, so we saw the body, and then I don't know. I was a little disappointed by the death of Demon. I mean, it does happen in an outhouse, so that in and of itself is great. But he sort of just gets stabbed by a metal pole of some kind or something.
Yeah, I don't even know where that came from exactly.
I don't know where it came from, and you just saw it a mile. As soon as he got as soon as the guy poked that device through the walls of the outhouse, it's like, okay, yeah, he's gonna get impaled on this thing unless he just tries to leave the outhouse, which is what he should have done. That said, I don't want to take anything away from just how great that is.
Yeah, exactly. The singing that just leads right into the terrified death.
Yeah.
And yet again it really is, like you said, it's none of that scene needs to be there.
No. I mean we
don't get anything out of any of that.
Nothing. There's nothing revealed about Reggie from his brother. I don't know why the brother's in the van. I don't know where he's going afterwards. Yeah. Why Reggie can't just hang out with him. No clue.
I mean, it's kind of interesting to even think, exactly what is the situation here?
Yeah.
And also to think in terms of as a screenwriter for this movie, where it feels like they're just it doesn't matter if the scene furthers the plot or gives us any information at all.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 people need to die right there.
Yep.
So just do something.
But it's so great. Yeah. Oh man.
But it's so great. But it really feels like someone took that kind of not great assignment and just spun gold.
Yeah, and I give a lot of credit to the director too for making those scenes interesting and fun. I mean, and it started with the greasers, like we said, like that. I mean, once you've done that, I guess you can just cut to anything and anywhere and kill anybody, and it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, all of these kind of have a personality to them.
But I would love it if that guy made a song about the Demon character, maybe as a follow-up to his song about Tina. But after this, I think Ethel and Junior bite the dust next. The Hicks, they get it. Pretty good death there. Ethel ends up in her own stew.
Pretty good. Very high energy.
Yeah. There's a decapitation. Yeah, Junior gets decapitated, which that I liked.
Oh, yeah.
He's riding on his motorcycle going crazy. Some really funny lines from Ethel as she's screaming at him to come inside that stew. I thought all that stuff was funny.
That's good stuff.
And then it's around this point that Pam and Tommy and Reggie come Well, no, Tommy ran away at the trailer park,
Yeah,
right?
Tommy ran away, so they're looking for Tommy.
Yeah, which is weird. But Pam goes back, and Matt is gone, the other counselor. So she just kind of leaves, and literally leaves, you know, if you want to call these people, if you want to say it's an asylum, she leaves the lunatics in charge of the asylum, right?
Right.
She makes Jake, the stutterer, in charge, I think. And,
Right.
you know, it's at that point where these kids kind of start getting picked off one by one. And even in that, man, you still get the nice scene where Jake is telling Robin, oh man, it was so sad. They're watching TV and like he's like, I like you a lot. And then he's like, I want to make love to you. And like the way she just looks at him and like, I mean, it was like, oh, this is like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Once again, we have our 85 trope of watching what characters are watching on TV. Like they've got some Montgomery Clift movie on there. I don't know what it was, but I was like, okay, I guess this is
whatever.
a good time
whatever
for
the
that.
stock prices were cheap enough for the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the movie they'll be watching.
Yeah, but it's like after that, I think everybody kind of goes their separate rooms and they end up kind of getting killed in those areas. You know, of course, you know, Robin, the girl that was on the couch earlier, she gets topless to go to sleep. And did you notice that like when she pulls the sheets up, she stops just under her boobs so that they're just hanging out? I mean, it's just like ridiculous. Like,
well, you know, it's funny you
80s.
say because I do think about that a lot. In other movies too, it's like where you'll have two characters who just had sex, and you know, if it's a PG-13 movie, then those sheets are like rigidly like up to
right
my
under
neck.
your armpits, tight. Don't.
Which does anyone really like immediately just I must cover myself completely now?
Yeah. Well, they definitely don't.
But yeah,
in this movie.
but this one was exactly as sort of pointed as whatever you do, don't cover those.
Showtime. Yeah. Yeah, they're hanging out there. You know, I think it's sort of like a basic machete through the bed springs kind of thing, or mattress.
Yeah.
Killing her.
Yeah.
The girl Violet, who sort of looked like goth Reese Witherspoon to me, she gets killed.
And is dancing sort of a
Dude, that
robot
dance. What was that? That was not the robot.
Don't
though.
know.
I don't know what was it.
Not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But she's doing her own thing, man.
Total weak death though. She just I think she just gets poked in the stomach basically, right?
Yeah.
That was a bit of a letdown to me at that moment in the movie. It feels like, you know, I don't know. I'm not that
Like
hard.
they just got to get through all these. Yeah.
Well, like you got to get to them, but you would want them to escalate, I would think, right? Like that's the point of this, right?
Yeah. Like maybe she could have gone earlier or something.
Yeah. I loved that Gramps, his dead body just gets flung through the window, and I swear I think his eyes were removed too, weren't they?
Yes.
Jason's got a thing for eyes in this movie, right?
He does. It always makes people squeamish.
Yeah.
My thing is, and it's really great about all these movies, I think. Maybe the first one is a little better logically, but it's like you get to this point in the movie, and how in the world is he getting around?
Yeah. Dude,
Like
he's like
how-
a CIA agent in this thing. He's so sneaky. Like he's slipping
man.
around and
He's doing that, but he's also like arranging bodies. He's like carrying stuff over here and putting them over there.
Yes. Yep.
And waiting for someone to see him and then doing a thing,
Yeah,
you know?
that's right. Because Reggie walks in on like the room where all four of the others are all like positioned on top of each other. The topless one on top of everybody else, of course, because she's still topless.
In Tommy's room, I would add, though, which is another thing I didn't even think about until later. I'm like, oh, it's kind of like framing Tommy.
Neither did I.
But it never rang a bell.
No, and it doesn't. Well, because none of the characters suggest that it might be him, you know?
Yeah, you kind of wanted somebody to be like, it must be that guy. And they never do. Yeah, no one ever.
And I think, honestly, that maybe was all it would take, because I did at that point go like, wait a second. Where is Tommy? Like, what the hell is he doing? Like, he just ran away from the trailer park?
Yeah. It's the end of the movie. Shouldn't he be a part of it?
But no, of course he shows back up, but not until we've got a good bit of Pam and Reggie, sort of our final two left here to face Jason.
Mm-hmm.
I love, there's like a good moment where Reggie just screams to the top of his lungs at the side of Jason and just takes the hell off, like leaving Pam in the dust, which I was like, oh yeah, that's what you should do. That's what I would do in that situation, I think. Yeah. There's a good moment where, you know, it looks like Pam is perhaps going to get killed and Reggie busts out of the barn in some sort of bulldozing tractor.
Bulldozer.
Yeah. Which still felt like it was moving pretty slow to then run into Jason.
It was.
He had time to move out of the way. I'll say that much.
Sure.
He did not move out of the way. And keep in mind, it's not actually Jason. It's just a paramedic. You'd think he would move out of the way.
Yeah, he must know what's going to happen.
But knocks him down to the point where those two
flying.
Those two think he's dead. Yeah, he's not dead. I think they run into the barn. You get a little bit of chainsaw versus machete here.
Pretty good matchup.
Pretty good matchup, although the chainsaw just stops working, of course. You know.
Yeah.
So Pam's a little bit out of luck there. And then Tommy does show up. And I thought it was a little bit interesting that their strategy was to just go into the loft of the barn, because I was like, I'm pretty sure Jason can climb a ladder too. And he does.
There's definitely some moments in this bit where I'm kind of like, what is the plan?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
I mean, I get it, because it just felt like, well, they're just trying to hide, right? And then, we get a shot of the fact that there's some sort of farming device that has, I don't know if it's like used to, what do you call that when you puncture the ground for planting things?
Oh, like aerating or something?
Yep, that's it. There you go. Yeah. That's our farming podcast segment tonight. So there's one of those on the ground outside the barn, and you know very clearly that Jason's going to end up falling on this thing, right? To his death. And that is indeed what happens, but not before he falls out and doesn't fall down. And Craig, I watched that thing, and I looked. I don't think there's there's nothing for him to hang on to. Like, how did he not fall down all the way? Or if he's hanging on to the side of the barn there after he fell out, they should be able to see his hands and his arms, should they not?
Yeah.
Because they walk over to the edge as if, like, okay, he fell down, and let's see if he's dead. And oh no, he's not. He's right there, actually. He grabs us.
Yeah, I like the physics of this. Mm-hmm. And there are plenty of movies that do this, where you get knocked out of a thing, and it's like, well, that person fell to their death, but then they're actually hanging on somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like
it doesn't matter.
You have to kind of assume that there was just a little bit of Jason magic in that hockey mask.
Yeah, I think so. I can see that. And
that's what kind of saved him at that moment.
I was kind of expecting Tommy to use some of his Jean-Claude Van Damme moves to get in a good kick and send Jason flying off the side there. I don't think that was what was happened exactly. I can't remember now. It doesn't matter. He ends up dying.
Yeah.
I think the mask came off in the fall, right? Because they look down and they see that it is a paramedic, right?
Yeah, they definitely see his face.
I've already talked about my disappointment of that. We won't even get into it again because this is a movie, and I think, again, this kind of like parlays into the problem of the reveal there is that there's still like 4 different endings that happen after this, I felt like they couldn't quite figure out how and where to end the movie. So ultimately, we're left with Tommy in a hospital room. He has a dream about Jason, I think. And then he opens up his nightstand drawer, and the hockey mask is in it. I don't know how the hell that got in there, who let him bring that in, or what happened.
Well, he dreams that he kills Pam.
Right.
And he wakes up from that, and Jason is standing, I think, at the foot of his bed.
Okay.
And this is the
but
real...
that's still a dream,
here's
right?
a subtle thing. I don't know.
Wait a second.
Here's a subtle thing.
Are you about to blow my mind?
I don't know if this will blow your mind, but it's something I certainly appreciated as a fan of Friday the 13th when I was watching this movie. Is there are 2, like the hockey mask that Roy uses is not Jason's hockey mask.
Okay, well that makes sense.
Like there's a very subtle. It definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
So there's a very subtle difference there. So it's kind of like whenever you see anyone with a hockey mask that has like a red triangle on it, you're looking at the real Jason, or Tommy is imagining the real Jason.
Okay.
And if you're seeing one with the blue triangles on it, then that's
the paramedic.
Roy.
Okay.
So you've got red triangle Jason here at the end. And
why didn't they ever make a movie called Red Triangle Jason?
I think it's still it's in turnaround.
Okay, sorry.
They've been trying to get it. Anyway, but Tommy gets up. Yeah, he goes to a drawer. He opens the drawer. There's a mask, and I think it was Roy's mask.
That was a blue triangle. Which is kind
of interesting.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Actually, let me just look for 1 second, because I actually have it. Yeah, he pulls out the blue triangle mask, which is kind of, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I don't know who put that there. Jason's ghost didn't put that there.
No.
Does Jason want him to be Jason? That doesn't make any sense. If he can put masks in drawers, he can do whatever he wants, probably.
But Tommy then does assume the mantle of Jason, does he not?
That is very much what is suggested there by the very end. Because Pam walks in, the window's broken. It seems like Tommy has left. But then behind her, the door closes, and it's Tommy. He's got the mask on. He raises a knife, and then we're off into the credits. And that was what they were gonna. That was what they were trying to do.
Okay.
They wanted it to be that Tommy Jarvis was now Jason, and he would kind of, he had just totally snapped, and he would carry on.
And is that
like
what
Jason
happens in
movies.
part 6?
Not at all, because
man.
people did not like this movie. It did not make a lot of money.
Right.
And they said,
Except
let's
for me,
pretend
yeah.
like that never happened.
Oh man.
Well, and that's kind of what's great is, man, I wish we could just have a marathon. Like, I would love to sit and watch these with you. Because then 6 is definitely a child of 5 in the best possible way.
Okay.
And it kind of acknowledges all the stuff that happened, and it's kind of got another good sense of humor, and it's also a really fun movie.
Well, Craig,
But anyway.
I actually watched this movie by signing up for a free trial of Stars. Stars with a Z.
Do you have them all? Yeah.
They've got 1 through 8 available.
Oh.
So, if you're interested, you can get a 7-day free trial through Stars, and it looks like 1 through 8 are all there. I would assume at least through Halloween. So maybe I'll try to knock out because I was definitely thinking, I was like, man, I want to see 4 for sure because I love that Feldman scene in the opening. And 6, I'll do that for sure.
Man, that's exciting. I'm so excited for you right now, Shawn.
I know. I was kind of like, I was like, I can't believe, like, I was not, and I do think, my expectations were low. But
and they should kind of be
they
low.
should for a movie that's a
like
fifth,
that's a good place to come in with. Yeah,
a 5th in a series, and you're restarting things, and Jason's supposed to be dead and all that stuff. I was not expecting it to be as fun as it was, and I do think again, like craft-wise, there's some good stuff in here. It's not just this is not a so bad it's good movie. There's a ton of characters. They each have a little bit of personality and something distinguished about them, something fun. Even Craig, I noticed in the cast, there's somebody named Pete, who I wonder if maybe was one of the greasers, played by Corey Parker, who was Epstein in Biloxi Blues. You remember that guy?
Oh, that makes sense. I was going to say, those guys did seem so familiar.
I love Biloxi Blues.
Yeah.
I think that was an 86 movie. Anyway.
Movie.
So, there's a ton of people in this thing that you might recognize in different things. I think Sheriff Tucker I recognized from a million different things as well.
Yeah.
And, look, if you're the producer of this movie, this made me excited to watch more. So I think that's maybe all they were hoping for, right?
Everybody involved, just take a moment to give yourself a big pat on the back. You've got Shawn watching the whole series.
Kudos, Friday the 13th, part 5. Craig, I don't know that we have anything else to say about this thing. Anything you want to add?
Not at all. I think we covered all the ground we need to.
Well, what's the better of the 2 movies for you? Do you want to pick one? Can you pick one?
It's tough right now, honestly.
I was going to say, it's hard for you to disassociate your childhood feelings for these things.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, now I have new feelings for Nightmare 2.
Yeah, okay.
And kind of, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I just need to make these a double feature for the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think they were a perfect double feature. It's really interesting to watch, especially thinking about the box office of the 2, and kind of being the 2 big horror movies of the year, and obviously iconic franchises.
Yeah,
1985 delivered, man. Again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, come back next time. I can't remember what we're doing, but we got 2 more movies at least that we're going to continue down this road here until the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Check back next time. We'll keep you posted. We'll do another tee up.
Right on. We'll see you in 1985.
Yeah, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.